Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one person or one starfish at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share is how we get the word out about what we do. I'm really excited for our guest today. We met on Instagram. Ashley, we've just been chatting and I'm excited to get into things and dig into it. So Ashley runs, her company is Ashley Cruise. I'm going to get that last name wrong. Arata
Arata.
Wellness.
Yes, Arata. It's not
Arata.
bad. It's not a common last name.
Not like erotic, but kind of. Okay.
Yes.
So Arata, and she helps women basically get their hormones in order and like on track. So I don't know exactly where we're going to go with this, but if you're a woman or you know a woman or you're raised by a woman or there's a woman around you, I know you're going to want to pay attention and share this episode because it's going to be really good. Welcome to the show, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking all things hormones. So excited to see where this goes today.
Me too. Like this is going to be great. All right, so you were in Amazon for over a decade. Let's go back a little bit even farther than that. What was your childhood like and what got you into Amazon itself in the first place? Like, it's a pretty good corporate job.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a very goal-oriented person, even from a young age. My mom always loves to tell the story at the dinner table with family of how on my first day of kindergarten, I told her I didn't need her to walk me to school, that I had it under control. I got it. And she was like, "No, I'm gonna come to the first day of kindergarten." So I've always been very goal oriented, very type A, very regimented. If I have a goal, let's put together a plan, let's go execute. And so that just followed me into my adult life. And it served me for a very, very long time, right? It allowed me to see what we on paper in modern society deem as successful. It allowed me to achieve some of those things in education and sports, monetarily, in career, post college, and while in grad school. And so, yeah, always very type A, very, I'm a millennial. I was a 90s kid. I spent a lot of time, I'm so grateful, pre-iPhone, running around outside with super soakers and just living that dream. So yeah, it started from a young age though, absolutely.
And did that come like was your mom or your dad an entrepreneur, or where did that, or like just you were the first in your family?
I was the first. Mom's a nurse.
Awesome.
My dad worked at UPS at an operations center for 29, 30 years. So first in my family, just kind of grew up in the Bay Area, very middle class family. And yeah, I guess I was just born with it. My mom always likes to say, since that first day of kindergarten.
That's awesome. Do you have siblings?
I do. Yes.
Are they similar or totally different?
We're all very different
Yeah,
personalities. So
interesting.
a lot of firemen and police officers and nurses in my sphere. I'm the only entrepreneur.
Okay. But you didn't start out as an entrepreneur. You went into a good job. What got you
Yes.
into Amazon? Tell us a little bit of like and where what did you do at Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a variety of things over the decade that I was there, but I got into my work at Amazon. So I moved to Seattle on a whim. I went to undergrad down in San Diego. I moved back to San Francisco when I was 25. I decided I wanted to get into tech. I was already doing business development and marketing related work when I lived in San Diego. And when I moved back to San Francisco in 2012, it was like, the startup boom. Silicon Valley was really becoming what Silicon Valley is now, what we know today. And I got into working for a startup that was opening a secondary market, a secondary office in Seattle. And I was 25 at the time. I was single. San Francisco was outrageously expensive. And I was like, hey, they're like, we need someone to go up there, a couple times a month and kind of grassroots hit the ground and, start pounding the pavement and doing sales and marketing and business development and establishing relationships there. And I was like, I'll go. I've got no ties here. My family's here. My parents here are great. But if it's a couple times a month, it's a 2 hour flight. Like, sure, I'll go. And that led to, I had a lot of success here. That led to permanent relocation. And I quickly realized after moving to Seattle to work from home in the dead of winter to a city where you know nobody, when you have 7 hours of daylight a day, that was not going to really work for me. And so I just started getting involved, Angela, in my community. I took cooking classes, I started volunteering, I started joining meetup groups, book clubs, you name it. Someone wanted to be friends. I was like, I'm here. I would love to be your friend. And it's very difficult. My husband always likes to say Seattle's a company town. We've got Starbucks and Boeing and Amazon and Microsoft. And it's very hard to meet people in this community who aren't part of that big company culture. And so just through my network, naturally, I had a lot of girlfriends that worked at Amazon that got me in the door there, into business development, marketing. I was on the retail side for a little while, working with vendors to bring more selection to the marketplace. And then I got into the cloud division where I started doing more technology focused business development and marketing and absolutely loved it.
Where did you meet your husband and all this? Did you meet him in Seattle then?
I did meet him in Seattle. Yeah, I
Mm.
met him at a grungy little dive bar through a friend of a friend just randomly. So the old fashioned way I like to say.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, that's so cool. So Seattle was massive for you. And
Yeah.
if anyone's listening, I just think that that's really neat. You didn't let fear get in your way even then to move to another city, and then you didn't know anyone, which a lot of people would sit there and they'd be like, you know what, this isn't for me. Let's go back home. Like this is really hard. Or they just sit there and cry and drink or something. I don't know, something. Instead, you're like, well, let's do some action. Let's go out. Let's go make some friends. And then through making friends, because that's what happens. Proximity is power. You started to meet
Yeah.
people. So what you know, it's who you know. You started to
Yep.
meet people that, introduced you to your next job. And you're like, okay, perfect. And you just kind of followed it into Amazon. And from what I gather, you hustled your way up through the ranks kind of in Amazon and were doing quite well. And then there was a bit of a problem. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the context I always like to give is when I talk about burnout is as a modern woman, we're expected to be everything to everybody all the time. And like I said, my hustle mentality had served me so well at this point in my life. And when I got into Amazon, I also decided to go back to school and do my MBA part-time through a program based in Boston. So I would take a red eye one Thursday a month out there and go be in school, be in classroom setting all day, Friday, Saturday, fly back Sunday, go back to work. So again, that type A overachiever, but I was loving it. I was loving what I was learning. And that was a part-time program that I did for about 2 years while working full-time in Amazon and hustling. And I noticed about 5 years into my tenure there, I was in my early 30s. I just started noticing that my body was not responding to things like it used to. So I was a Pilates spin class junkie. And even though I was working out still very consistently, I use that to manage my stress. And I put that in air quotes because exercise is also a stressor, a good one when used appropriately if you're not burnt out. But yeah, I started noticing changes in my body. So I wasn't rested even after 8 or 9 hours of sleep. I would still drag through my morning exhausted, but then I would start getting a second wind as the day would go on around 7 p.m. And I would be staring at the ceiling in bed, wondering, why was I exhausted all day? And I've been looking forward to sleep all night, all day, and now I'm wide awake. So changes in my body that just no change in my routine or my habits, but my body was changing. And so I rode that out for a couple of years, just, doing what a lot of women do, a second cup of coffee in the afternoon at 1, 2 p.m., right? I have to work out harder because I'm not maintaining my weight. I'm actually starting to gain a few pounds. So why not work out harder, right? Why not be more regimented with the diet and more strict? So, which I think is the response that a lot of women have when they notice that their body is starting to change in their 30s or maybe things are
100%.
changing for them. Yeah.
Okay. And then keep going. This is good.
Oh, yeah. 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 So I rode that out for a few years. And at the same time, there were a few big life events that happened. So my husband and I got engaged to get married. Obviously, COVID hit, which for those of us who worked at companies like Amazon during that time was a very stressful time because being on the cloud side of the business, every small business in the world needed our technology almost overnight, simultaneously, right? So, and you're now working from home, there's no commute. The expectation is you're just working, you're on all of the time. So, we got engaged, we had this global pandemic, and simultaneously, both my father-in-law and my stepfather were diagnosed with cancer. So, we had this kind of these life-altering events all transpiring at the same time.
My gosh.
And I just kept pushing through. I was like, we need to be more regimented. I've got this. I always am able to solve problems. Let's just put together the plan, execute the plan, stick to the plan, right? And if that means being more and more regimented, then that's what it means. And so it the situation with my body continued, and I knew that I had had some form of thyroid dysfunction for a while. Back in 2019, I had slipped on black ice. I had a concussion. I had to go to the emergency room and they did a scan and they were like, everything was good. But they were like, hey, by the way, just a heads up, you have these nodules on your thyroid. And I was like, huh, what is that? I have no idea what you're talking about. And they're like, super common, no big deal. Almost all women have them. It's totally normal, but you do need to get them biopsied just to make sure they're benign. And then your ENT or whoever you go to is gonna, they'll want to check it once a year. So I was like, great, no problem. Check on the calendar every year. Got them biopsied, benign. But about this time, fast forward 4 or 5 years, I had started noticing some changes, hoarseness in my throat, just changes, a sensation of fullness in my throat, and being in business development and marketing and sales and working during the global pandemic, I'm talking all day long. And so it was very, very notable for me. And so the nodule, I went back and it was about that time the nodule had changed and become precancerous. So there were some atypical cells there where they were like, hey, this has changed. You need to have surgery to take out half your thyroid. Okay, sure. I was like, all right, this is part of the plan. We got to do it. I did obviously some homework and I started when I did my research. I knew nothing about the thyroid at this time. I had just set a calendar reminder once a year to go see my ENT and get a repeat biopsy and ultrasound, and they would measure the nodule and be like, yep, this is still benign. It hasn't grown. You're good to go. See you in 1 year. Okay, check the box. When I started actually doing my homework about how powerful the thyroid is in the body and everything that it does, it's literally, Angela, it is the thermostat for our body. It controls our metabolism, our energy, plays directly into our sex hormone production. It is absolutely critical to so many systems in the body. And I was like, oh, this explains why I've been having all these symptoms. Okay, great. Yeah, let's bump surgery up, take it out. And I was like, this is going to solve all the problems. It did not. It did not.
Oops.
So yeah, I'm certainly happy to talk to you about post-surgery, what happened. If you want the full juicy details, we can get into it right here.
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Yeah. So I signed up for surgery. I took only a week off of work. I was like, again, type A, you're going to cut into my throat. Not that there's a lot of important things in here. You're going to take out half a vital organ, but I just need a week off and then I'll be back on the grind. And so I took a week off. I got half my thyroid out and went to see my endocrinologist, oncologist, post-operatively. Everything went very, very well in terms of surgery. And they handed me levothyroxine. Synthetic thyroid medication. It is inactive thyroid hormone. It is the third most prescribed drug in the
Yep.
United States. 23 million people wake up and take levothyroxine or a similar form of it, Synthroid, Armor. There's all
And that's
kinds
what
of
my mom's
thyroid
on,
medication
Synthroid.
out there. You take Synthroid?
My
Okay.
mom is.
Your
Mom's on.
mom. Okay. Yep. Third most prescribed drug in America, 23 million people. And they handed me this pill and said, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. This is going to replace the thyroid function that is lost now that you have had half your gland removed. And I was like, okay, you're in the white lab coat. Why would I come from a family of nurses. I grew up to trained to blindly trust the conventional medical system. Why would I question this? These people have dedicated their life to serving and helping other people. Why would I question what they're telling me is going to be good for me? So I took the pill religiously. I did everything they said I could do, and my body completely fell apart. I gained 40 pounds within 7 months. I lost a third of my hair. I
Wow.
had hormonal rage that was so significant at this point, Angela, that there were serious conversations with my husband at certain points about separating and taking a break because the moods were so outrageous. The brain fog, I was like, I'm gonna lose my career and my job. I would forget what I was saying. I would forget words mid-sentence. I'd be in presentations and meetings with clients and executives, and I would just not know what I was saying or what I was doing or what I was supposed to be talking about. I was like, I'm gonna lose everything in my life, my career, my family, I'm gonna lose my home, I'm gonna pay my bills. You start doom spiraling about everything, and all of this started with burnout.
So then what did you start down the journey then to figure out how to get out of this?
Yeah, so I actually always love this part of the story because I think it is a rare experience I realized on my journey that I had that I don't think a lot of women are getting in their own care. If they've been to the doctor, if they've gone to their gynecologist, or they've even already their primary care doctor, or they've already been referred out to endocrinology to talk about hormone symptoms, a lot of them are in this kind of this restart model, this repeat loop. I was very fortunate that when I was post-op, when I got to a certain point, I remember sitting with my oncologist here in Seattle. I got care at Fred Hutch Cancer Center. They are renowned. They're absolutely incredible at what they do. And I remember crying in the office for the gazillionth time. And my oncologist looking at my chart, looking at me, just seeing how puffy and inflamed I was, looking at my chart and seeing how much weight I had gained. And she finally said to me, openly, honestly, and with such empathy, she said, "Listen, Ashley, we have used all of the tools that we have available for you here in my office in how I treat thyroid. Have you ever considered functional medicine or naturopathic medicine?" And that conversation completely changed the trajectory of my entire life and what I knew was now possible. So it set me down a path of looking into that. For those of you listening that have never heard that term, I think it's becoming a bit more mainstream now where you can
Hmm.
hear about this. You might see it on Threads or Twitter or, Instagram, but functional medicine is at its root actual root cause medicine. So whereas conventional medicine, the Western medical model, which is very necessary in life, is all about diagnosing and treating disease, functional medicine pulls back the curtain and asks the question,
Where did
why?
it come from?
Where did it come from? What caused it? What started it? Where are the imbalances in your body at a root cause level that are directly correlated with your symptoms?
Right. So you started down that journey, and what did you find out?
Oh man, quite a bit. Quite a bit. It was so eye-opening to understand how our hormones and in Western medicine are looked at in these tiny little pieces in isolation, right? So your primary care doctor is going to run one or two markers for your thyroid. Your gynecologist is going to run 3 to 4 markers as it pertains to your sex hormones like estrogen and progesterone and your testosterone levels. An endocrinologist might go further and look at some markers for cortisol levels, right? Your stress hormones, because we have 3 buckets of hormones, but nobody is looking at it all together because they are directly correlated and they're dependent upon each other. They also are very integrated into how our gut functions. So we actually produce and metabolize hormones in the gut. So, for example, if you are producing too much estrogen, and which is directly correlated. High levels of estrogen are directly correlated to inability to sleep, moodiness, and inability to lose weight, as well as no libido. You actually metabolize excess estrogen out through your poop every day. No one's talking about this in conventional care. No one is saying like, "Hey, what are you eating? How's your digestion? You ever get constipated, which is a lesser known symptom of thyroid function causes low thyroid function causes constipation." So again, right, just not connecting the dots of how things all
Mm.
play out together. I had had a history. I have been very fortunate in my life to travel the world. I've been to a lot of different places, which comes with exposure to different types of water and food and bacteria. I've had a history. I've been hit with food poisoning in Africa, in Asia, and in different places in the world, in Colombia. I did not ever think to look at my gut as my root cause. And it ended up being what was causing a lot of my issues to begin with. Co-infections, overgrowth of bacteria, things there that were directly contributing to low hormone production and function. And so when I was able to keep peeling that back and solve that, my body slowly started coming back into balance. And so grateful for functional medicine for that why. Those 3 little letters, Angela, I'm telling you, are so powerful to be able to ask why, what's causing this.
So what did you do to start to fix your gut?
A lot of different things. This is where I always recommend people work with a qualified practitioner on this because I think, and I always like to give that caveat because I do think there's a lot of stuff that gets pushed and sold by influencers, right, and content creators on Instagram right now in social media where, they might not be qualified to help and work and support with you. And they're obviously getting paid to push, some of the things that they're putting out there. So that's always my caveat before I provide information about my story. If you're wanting to look into your gut, work with someone who's qualified to do so. But for me, I had quite a bit to examine. So I had to kill off overgrowth of bad bacteria that was causing bloating and digestive issues. I used an herbal protocol. So, very targeted, very specific supplements. Once I had the data back from my actual functional lab testing that looks at 75 different gut markers. So, we knew exactly. And at the time, I had not been back to school just yet to become an integrative health practitioner. So, I was working with someone very qualified to lead me through this. But once we knew exactly what bacteria was out of balance, we were able to use targeted herbal supplements to kill that off. And then once that was done, use very specific targeted probiotics to build up what I was low in that I needed more of. So it was a multiple month-long journey, very gentle, very slow is really the approach. Bless you.
Thank you.
Very gentle, very slow. But yes, it was very targeted.
Awesome. So if someone's listening to this, I mean, obviously everyone's different. They'll listen to this and they're having some of these similar things because I seem like it's a lot of women that deal with a lot of this stuff already. What would be the first thing? I mean, and maybe money's tight. So I know when you talk about functional medicine and all that stuff, it costs money.
It
And
does.
so maybe money's tight. What's something that they could look at that maybe is free that would be like, I know some of it they might get there, but like what's a start that people should be looking at first of all just to help get their body back in order?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got a free essential lab guide, a hormone lab guide, and we can certainly link it up for your listeners.
Cool.
It's free to download direct from my website, but it actually tells you what labs your conventional care team is running and what is being missed. It also helps women delineate between what is normal versus what is optimal. And I know we hear that term more, it's more mainstream now, normal isn't optimal, but essentially what it means is the normal lab ranges are really based on population averages that include sick people in the population. We don't want to be in with the sick people, right? We want to be optimal. So it outlines for women what your care team is running, what's being missed, so you know what to ask for, and also what the optimal lab ranges are. So if you want to pull up, blood work, your primary care doctors run for you. If you're feeling like you've had symptoms and you're not getting answers, just do a little side-by-side comparison. Look at what's optimal, look at where you are. That could be something that you could do first and foremost that
Hmm.
is free and easy, and then allows you to be more empowered to go back to your care provider and say, hey, I'd like to talk about how we get X, my thyroid levels to be more optimal.
Mhm.
If they can't have that conversation or engage with you on that, then that's when you know, okay, maybe this isn't the provider for me, and you can continue to look at other options, but they may be able to support you with that too.
So as you started to get your gut health and everything in order, how fast, there's always a question, how fast did you start to see, especially the weight loss,
Yeah.
that kind of thing? Because like I said, especially for women, I know that that's a common conversation, it seems like in my circle. So yeah, how was that for
Yeah.
you?
It's going to look a little bit different for
Of
everyone. I will
course.
say, when I first started working on my gut, there was a period within the first month where I noticed almost 10 pounds of inflammation gone in about 2 to 3 weeks. It was pretty instant noticing the decreased puffiness in my face and in my stomach, which is inflammation that early on, right? You are not
Right,
burning that amount of fat that quickly.
right.
All in all, to completely heal and to reboot my thyroid, for me, it was about a 6 to 9 month journey. I went very slow because I have a very sensitive system. I'm sensitive to everything, medication, I'm allergic to things. It is what it is, just my body. So I went very slow. Some of the clients that I work with are completely overhauling their hormonal system and getting results in 2 to 4 months. And 4 months is really the sweet spot for the majority of women that I work with one on one. That is really the area where we can completely reboot what is going on in your system and get women to a place of feeling really good in their body again.
What are some symptoms that people, if they're listening to this, that they would be like, that aren't just like, I don't know, maybe they're not working out, they're not dieting, whatever it is that, and they're getting older and life kind of goes on that maybe aren't like what's the word? Red flags or yellow flags that they should like they're just like, yeah, this is life. And what are some yellow flags or red flags that people should even look for to even think like, you know what, this is something off?
Yeah. So some of the lesser known symptoms I would say that I like to talk about where people aren't even correlating that this could be hormonal. The constipation is one I already talked about. I had a girlfriend recently tell me, she's like, oh, it's just totally normal for me. She has Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune, underactive thyroid condition.
Mhm.
She's like, oh, it's just totally normal for me to just poop every 2 to 3 days. And I was like, girlfriend,
Awesome.
no. That is not normal. We should be having 1 to 2 drama-free bowel movements a day, realistically. So constipation is a big one that a lot of women don't recognize as being correlated with low thyroid function.
Mm,
Another one is chronically cold hands and feet.
mm,
So if you're getting in bed at night and you're trying to cuddle up to your partner, or your cat wants to jump across the room when you go to cuddle with them because your hands and feet are chronically freezing, even in the dead of summer, that is another one. Two that really, really surprise people typically, depending upon, and more people might be aware of this if they wear an Apple Watch. I wear an Aura ring, it tells me these things, but low heart rate and low body temperature. So
mm,
in hindsight, when I had my concussion, I remember being in the ER, and when, the intake nurse hooks you up and they're checking your vitals. I remember them asking me, "Are you a marathon runner?" And I was like, no, why? And I was like, I exercise, but I'm definitely not a marathon runner. And they're like, oh, your resting heart rate is very low. Like it's in the high 40s. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to do with that information. But in hindsight, that's a sign that your body is operating. Again, the thyroid is the thermostat for your body, right? It's powering everything. So anything that is low and slow, chronically low body temperature, below what is, around 98 degrees Fahrenheit is what we use in the US, obviously. Anything below that consistently, if your Aura ring, your Apple Watch are telling you that you have a low resting heart rate, you have a low body temperature, those are things to look for that
mm.
are signals from your body that it doesn't have enough fuel to move, right? To power your systems.
Interesting. That's cool. So then you're like, as you went through this, you started to get better and heal. You're like, all right, enough with corporate. We're gonna get out of that. Where was that decision?
Yeah, I think after having my own cancer scare directly in between losing these two father figures, to cancer, was something that at the age of 30, 35, 36, was something that was so life-changing for us to realize, because both of my stepfather and my father-in-law, extremely hardworking individuals, they retired, essentially got sick and died. And it's like, is this the point of life? Is this really what we are here to do? Is just work and grind and burn out and be exhausted and miserable and save every penny we have and then not be able to use it because we become chronically ill from those choices earlier in life. And so that for me was a really eye-opening moment. I will say too, as I was on my healing journey, I realized how much I was loving this work and what I was learning. And so it was my excitement for what I was learning about the body, about hormones, about the results and outcomes that I was getting, and how it was totally transforming my life, coupled with the emotional shock of losing these men that we love simultaneously. That was such an eye opener for me that I'm so grateful for. I went through at a young age to be like, this is not it. This is not it for me, and this is not going to be my path. So, yeah, I left at the end of 2024. I took a year off. I traveled. Went all over the world last year. Continued my own kind of nervous system regulation and kind of healing work. And then I realized how much I was doing this work and loving it with friends and family who saw that I was this totally different woman, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and they wanted me to do this work with them. So I did. And then I realized, why stop there? There are so many women. There are tens of thousands, I mean, millions of women on thyroid medication. There are tens of thousands of women just in my community and sphere that I see online every day asking for help with this work, and they are not getting the support that they need. So I decided to take it even a step further. And now I do this full time with other women.
That's awesome. I love that. And
Yeah.
how, you're the first entrepreneur in your family. So how did that go over with your husband, with your family, as far as like leaving a good job, and now you're an entrepreneur, which has a roller coaster.
Yes, it is a roller coaster that I am absolutely obsessed with and love with. I think there was some
Love that.
confusion. My family is very supportive, but there was definitely some confusion. They're like, "Wait, what? You're in
Yeah.
their generation from my parents' lens as well,
Yeah.
especially coming from a family of nurses, sister-in-law, grandma, aunt, mom. They're like, you're doing what? Functional medicine? What is this?" Right? There's both confusion for leaving the stability of what looked amazing on paper, but also confusion for what I was stepping into.
Hmm.
They're very supportive now. They've totally come around. But I mean, my husband was like, yeah, game on. Like, you're a totally different person.
He
This,
saw you going from this BI to like, he's like, okay, I'll still marry you. We're still together. This is good.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. He's like, you're a different human being. Like, this is the Ashley that I knew, when we first met. And you're so energized and excited by this. Like, yeah, you're here. Go change lives, babe. We got this. So my
Yeah.
husband, very, very, very supportive and still is. My family has totally come around, but they were definitely confused. There was some education that I had to do.
And that's where I think like anyone listening, sometimes your family, you view them as not supportive. It's not a matter that they just don't understand, like Ashley was saying. And so sometimes we just have to go out and do it anyway and win anyway.
Yes.
I know my parents were the same way. So go win anyway. And then they start to come around, they're like, oh yeah, we always believed in you. Yeah.
Yes.
And we're always there for you. So just go make it happen anyway. I love this. I know we could talk forever, but guys, make sure to reach out. Ashley's information will be in the show notes. Get the lab thing that she was talking about, and any questions that you have, definitely reach out. And you work with people all across North America,
Yep.
anywhere,
US,
basically.
yep. US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Cross time
cool.
zones. It's all done virtually.
I love that. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Before I wrap up, I always have three final questions, and then anything that we didn't talk about that we really want to make, leave our listeners with. First and final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you would say that could help them find it?
What brings me joy?
Hmm. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Shift your loyalty to the person you are becoming. I think that was something on my healing journey that I said to myself every day because you aren't yet who you want to be and how you want to feel, but
Mm,
you have to shift how you behave, what you believe, and what you do every day in your life to that person. So that's my absolute favorite quote of all time.
I love that. Third and final question, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
She brought joy to women, restored joy to women. Thank you, Ashley.
I love that. That's awesome. All right, you run into someone in the coffee shop and they've listened to this. What's something we didn't touch on though that you think would be really impactful to leave our listeners with?
I think it's just important to advocate for yourself, to know that you are the expert on your own body. So even if your labs are coming back normal, even if your care team is telling you everything is fine, if you're getting that speech over and over and over, just know that you don't have to suffer through this phase of life. If you're over 35 and your body is changing and you're noticing it and you are not feeling like yourself, please do not stop advocating for yourself. If you want to have a conversation with me, great. I'm certainly happy to chat with you. If it's another resource you look for, just please don't ever stop advocating for yourself because there is so much joy and energy on the other side, and it's possible for you.
I love that. That's so awesome. Guys, like I said, make sure to follow Ashley. Let's go out there. If we can change one starfish or one life at a time together, we can help change the world. Thanks for being on, Ashley.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Angela.